So at which point were you getting to your decision that you really desperately needed something to change? What was leading you to that point?
So I carried the extra weight for most of my life, and up until sort of the mid-2010s, I suppose. So I'm in Dunedin, and up until that point, the weight had really been its own concern. There wasn't really anything else sort of compounding the issue. I'd been to various doctors and in and out of hospitals and so on, and checked up, and my cholesterol was more or less okay. My blood pressure was fine. My blood sugar was only slightly elevated, but not much to worry about there. All the prodding and poking with these various people are telling me, oh, there doesn't seem to be much all that wrong with you. You're just really super fat. But the added symptoms began to kick in sort of around 2015.
Okay.
And it sort of began. There were a few sort of things that began to sort of set in gradually all at the same time. I was so heavy by now in 2015. My heaviest, I'm at 137 kilograms.
Yeah.
That's over 300 pounds. And for my height, I'm 175 centimeters or 5'9". That gives me a BMI of 45. And for anyone familiar with the BMI scale, anything, I think, over 25 is overweight, over 30 is obese. At a BMI of 45, I'm off the chart. I'm off the chart fat. And I'm physically that big at that point where I'm actually really starting to struggle with my mobility. I'm struggling to do just everyday jobs like to tie my shoelaces, because I couldn't actually reach down around my stomach. I had such a great big round balloon of a belly that in order for me to tie my shoelaces, I would have to sort of raise one leg up to like a mid-level surface, like the arm of a chair or a low table, something like that. Sort of shift my belly around to one side and then sort of reach around that belly that's sort of sticking out sideways so that I can just about reach the shoe to tie the shoelace, put that leg down, swap everything around, shift the stomach over this side, reach round the stomach and tie the shoelaces.
God, it gives a new meaning to where there's a will, there's a way, doesn't it?
There's some mobility issues.
To put it mildly, yeah.
Then there's the breathing issues. I'm struggling to I'm struggling to take a full breath. Like I was struggling to take full deep breaths to really sort of stretch the lungs. I don't know what it was, but just the whole and just take that full breath and just the shortness of breath I was starting to notice. And that wasn't even with any extra effort of exercise or anything like that, just shortness of breath at rest. And that began to compound further when I start to experience some chronic pain in the chest area. And if there's a part of the body where you don't want to be experiencing pain, it's sort of in that chest area. Like it doesn't take much of an expert to sort of guess at what pain in the chest might be a sign of in terms of what's to come for me. What is my fate looking at? What am I suddenly, the barrel of here?
Suddenly, Brennan, the whole idea of I might make it to my 50s or I won't make it much further than my 50s is starting to feel a lot more real.
Was that even an overestimate? I was thinking in my mind.
Right.
At that point, I'm 35, 36 years
old. So you're starting to consider your mortality in the mid-30s.
Yeah. It's like my body is really just barely struggling to cope with itself, like it's on the verge of shutdown. I kind of feel like I'm circling the drain, as it were. So
while you're circling the drain, what was circling through your head?
A bit of regret, perhaps, that if the worst were to happen, as it felt like it was really seriously on the verge of doing, that I wouldn't really have much to show for my ever having been around in the first place. What have I accomplished with my life to this point? I've just been this fat failure of a guy. I had a bit of a brain on me, but that was vastly outweighed, no pun intended, by the fact that I had a much larger stomach, and it was just this dominating factor in my life, and it was about to dominate things to the point where I'm really contemplating the end. Not that I wanted it to happen. I wanted to live. I never wanted to be fat. I wanted to be healthy. I wanted to be normal, but there just didn't seem to be anything that would work. And by that stage in my life, I've long since convinced myself that since, nothing I'd ever tried in the past while growing up had ever worked for me. And so at this point, I'm convinced that nothing can ever work for me.